to get him into the game early. Bill Guthridge has not lost an ACC tournament game in his 2 years as the Tar Heels head man. For the Maryland Terrapins, they come into this one having won 7 straight, 26 wins for the season, and they line up this way with Steve Francis, Terrell Stokes, and the star-studded lineup with Lonnie Baxter, Laurent Profit, and Terrence Morris. Gary Williams, the most wins that he's had as a collegiate head coach, 26. He can better that with a win today against his longtime nemesis, North Carolina. And keep in mind that this Maryland club, since the injury to Obinna Akisi, has kicked it into high gear. They've won 6 in a row, I should say, without Akisi, and the winning margin in those 6 games has been better than 20 points.
Bob, I think it's extremely important for North Carolina to slow down the Maryland attack. North Carolina won 10 ACC games this year, and in none of their wins did the opposition score more than 66 points. So they're really going to have to do something to keep the Maryland offense in check.
North Carolina with Ed Cota out front, and Terrell Stokes finds him immediately.
And Maryland opens up in the man-to-man. That Morris-Lang matchup is going to be an interesting one to watch on the inside.
And there's Stokes knocking the ball away.
Good defense, come on.
The Tar Heels will have 21 seconds with which to work on the shot clock.
And the folks who have taken a beating in this tournament are our camera operators. We just lost another one.
Somewhere behind press row.
Oh, this is great pressure by Maryland.
Okulaja knocked away and stolen by Stokes. Saves it. No, he was on the side of the end line, and it's out of bounds to the Tar Heels.
Now, the interesting thing with that is the 35-second shot clock has been reset right here. And I guess they ruled that Maryland did have possession of the ball, but Stokes hardly looks like that's what you would consider to be possession.
Haywood outside. Owens has struggled with his outside shot from three-point land of late. Okulaja into Chris Lang, and the hook is going to rim out. Back to the rebound.
Well, nice job by Baxter. It's important that he block Haywood off the boards.
Speaking of tempo, Maryland attacking quickly. Carolina does a great job getting back defensively.
Bob Morris struggled with his shooting yesterday. You don't expect Terrence Morris to struggle 2 days in succession, and he got a shooter's bounce right there.
Owens, back irons. Okulaja fights for it, wins it.
That's a good job by Okulaja to run down the long rebound. He ought to be able to get some rebounds over Laurent Profit, and he did that time. Nice job. Ed Cota going to set it up. Stokes looking for some help with those screens out front. Lang not really a threat from out there, so Morris back in the lane.
Cota. That one blocked by Stokes. Morris sends it ahead to Francis. Here comes Stevie for the jam.
Bob, if Owens is going to go for that steal, he has to get it, because if not, that's what's going to happen.
4-0 Maryland. And Owens nearly had his pocket picked by Stokes that time, and a hold on Profit. First foul on Laurent.
Maryland being very aggressive on the defensive end, and Laurent Profit, that was a good attempt, but you don't want to pick up the foul that early in the game. Profit, of course, an extremely important player to Maryland. They don't want to lose him to foul trouble.
Haywood.
Oh, he just lost it.
And it's out of bounds to Maryland.
Now, that's a good quick hands by Maryland. A couple of guys got their hands on the ball, and Haywood just fumbled it away.
Profit. Haywood the rebound.
I think North Carolina has to look for easy opportunities as well. You don't want to get in a running up and down game with Maryland, but you want to take advantage of what they give you.
Max Owens puts Carolina on the board. His first 2, Max had 8 last night against Georgia Tech. Baxter lays it in.
Where Laurent Profit moving without the ball is what created that entire play, Bob. That is a tough defensive assignment for Okulaja.
Haywood gives to Cota. Okulaja with Baxter flying at him, and Okulaja connects on a 3.
North Carolina, if they beat the Maryland pressure, will have shot opportunities like that. The question for North Carolina is, can they put enough of them in the basket? That's a tough pass inside.
Baxter, Haywood dives on him, and a held ball.
And let's see whether they rule that as a defensively initiated held ball or an error. It is. It's defensively initiated. Ruling that Lonnie Baxter had possession of the basketball when he was tied up.
So the Tar Heels come down with a chance to take their first lead of the game. Cody. Off court, off Okulaja, out of bounds to Maryland, and Francis. Oh, I'm telling you, he's everywhere.
Now, for North Carolina, they don't want to turn the ball over, Bob, but if they are going to turn the ball over, it's in a situation like this where Maryland doesn't have a chance to run out on the fast break. Nice job by Francis.
Nice dump down to Baxter and a foul on Haywood.
Bob, there is another tough defensive matchup for North Carolina. Lang trying to match up against Morris, and Morris doing a great job moving without the ball, and then a nice pass inside forces the foul against Haywood.
Lonnie Baxter, 50% foul shooter this season. Freshman from Silver Spring, Maryland. Into the starting lineup after the injury that ended Obinna Akizi's season. And here is Jason Capel coming in for his first tournament appearance. Suffering from the bad back that he injured prior to the Duke game of practice. Capel has not worked with the Tar Heels this week in preparation for the tournament.
Bob, and a back injury is really a tough one to just play through.
Okulaja. Here's Haywood. And that was tipped. Carolina has 25 seconds on the clock.
Good job by Maryland to just collapse around Haywood and force him to throw the ball back out. That's really the first time North Carolina has been able to go inside to their big man. Francis, I thought was going to get that one.
Capel hits a three.
As I said, it's really difficult to play through one of those back problems. That's an excellent play by Maryland, or by North Carolina. If Maryland's going to drop down on the inside guys, you're going to have to hit some of those open outside looks.
Baxter shut off on the baseline. Here's Francis out of the corner for three. Davey with 5. He had 20 yesterday against Florida State. Pressure. Cota spins away from Profit, drives the lane, and draws the foul.
Maryland really trying to be aggressive in the pressure, but Francis picks up the foul.
Timeout in Charlotte. 15:33 left in the first half.
As we get a look at the breakdown of the Maryland pressure, this is the area that North Carolina wants to avoid. They'd like to keep the ball in this area, and Bob, if they can get it out of the box and into the circle with a man advantage, then they can score. Nice job by Okulaja. Now as Cota wheels into the lane, they've got a 3-on-2, but look how quickly Maryland closes. Francis picks up the foul, but that's the Maryland pressure. If North Carolina can beat it, then they can create some scoring opportunities.
In the game at College Park, North Carolina turned it over 25 times against that Maryland pressure, and the Terps turned it into 35 points. If you can just kind of hold down Maryland in terms of the steals and the turnovers, that eliminates a lot of their offense.
But Bob, that is how Maryland is most effective. And so you eliminate their most effective weapon, and obviously that gives you a much better opportunity. And here's the second chances we were talking about.
But there's the steal. Francis.
Oh, my. Bob, he is so quick to the ball and then quick to the basket. I thought Cota had recovered that one.
Only Cinderella's sisters get to the ball quicker. Capel. 4-3, and what a big pick-me-up he has been for the Tar Heels. 2 threes off the bench, third on Maryland.
Bob, if you don't steal the ball in that press, you're going to give up some open opportunities.
Francis for 3. Boy, he can do it all.
My heavens.
Second three-pointer of the game, already 10 points.
Talk about a pick-me-up.
16-11 Maryland.
That's where they want to get the trap. Good job by Okulaja to power his way out of it.
Lang puts it home. First basket for the Gastonia freshman.
Maryland has created their type of tempo with that trap, Bob, but they haven't really been able to cause too much damage to North Carolina in terms of stealing the ball out of the trap.
Stevie Francis just a little long with that one.
And Capel's over on the other side asking for the ball.
Okulaja for three.
Don't need to throw it over there. Going to make the threes anywhere. North Carolina doing a great job from beyond the three-point line. 4 for 5 early in the game.
Baxter out to Stokes to Profit. Francis. Shot clock hits 10. The fake, the shot, Capel the block, Okulaja the takeaway.
Now North Carolina looking to push the ball up the court again. Capel standing in front of Gary Williams asking for the ball.
Haywood. First bucket of the game puts Carolina in front, 18-16.
Bob, in a transition situation, Maryland really can't get the help inside.
Morris for three. Short and to Haywood. Capel.
Boy, nice shot by Capel. You know, you make 2 3-point baskets out there, and he looks like he's limping to the bench, but you make 2 threes, they come out, and Gargi goes right around him.
And Maryland takes a 20-second timeout.
Jason Capel just taking the ball right to the basket. Steve Francis went out to defend the 3-point shot. And Jason Capel, as he's walking to the bench, that does not look like a grin, that looks like a grimace. He mentioned he's having those back problems, but he looks okay there.
Something about the Charlotte Coliseum, perhaps. Earlier this year, he scored his season high in this building, 16. And ironically, it was against his father's team, Old Dominion
squad.
2016 Tar Heels. Mike Marticic in for Maryland. Stokes is able to knock it down. Yes, sir. Francis. Baseline. Marticic outside. Profit. Deep three. Ademola.
Boy, he and Marticic really with a battle on the inside. North Carolina has done a nice job limiting Maryland's transition opportunities, Bob, and then using their defense to force them to the perimeter. That's not the way Maryland plays most effectively.
Coda knocked away by Stokes, and Terrell Stokes takes it away. From his knees, now his backside makes the play. Morris to midcourt. Stokes maintains possession.
Boy, that was great defense by Stokes. And again, though, Coda battling for the ball prevented the run-out transition basket because Francis was running on the wing and had a shot.
Three-pointer for Terrence Morris. Just 2 for 10 yesterday against Florida State. Bill Guthridge was hoping that might continue. 20-19 Tar Heels.
Well, it's a forlorn hope. Morris looks like he's on his game today.
Ryan Versticker had such a big game last night. Tar Heels in for North Carolina as Ademola tags inside with Marticic. Versticker short, one-handing at Marticic, and Ademola the foul.
Marticic and Ademola look like a couple of wrestlers in there, and they certainly appeared to be that time.
A 1-point game with 11:27 left in the first half.
North Carolina leads by 1. A pretty impressive offensive performance for the Tar Heels. But here, Terrell Stokes does what you need to do against Ed Coda. Keep him in front of you, pressure the ball when Coda picks up his dribble, and Stokes is going to come out here inadvertently tripped by Coda, but never in control of the ball, Bob. That's how he's able to go to the floor and not have the traveling violation.
Gary Williams Terrapins now with the basketball, and they've been able to convert 7 points off the Tar Heel mistakes early. Coda with 3 turnovers and 2 assists in the opening minutes of this game. Francis the catch. Francis the reverse.
Now, how confident is that to throw the ball up for an alley-oop with a 7-foot guy standing right back there? But Steve Francis does it, completes that play like he does it every day. And you know what? He does.
21-20 Maryland. Curry. Francis all over. Gary Williams screaming for a 5-second call.
Or something to that effect.
Tell you what, if you're a referee and you're in front of the Maryland bench, you need a heat shield. Francis on a drive. Look at the body control. Martisic off the glass.
Francis has dominated the first part of this game for the Maryland Terrapins.
As a youngster growing up in Maryland, used to watch the ACC tournament on television. Now he's got a starring role. Owens baseline.
Tough shot.
Baxter rebounds.
You got Baxter and Martisic in the game at the same time. Maryland with their big lineup. And with Stokes on the bench, Francis takes over the point guard duties.
Three-pointer, no good. Nice tip. Martisic inside.
Bob, Martisic set to pick, and Haywood went out to help against Francis's three-point shot, and Martisic just goes right to the basket.
5-point Maryland lead. Okulaja inside to Lang. And it drops in.
Lang really has that nice touch on the jump hook shot.
Gets rid of it quickly. 25-22. Miller. Now Dixon deep in the corner.
Dixon is a dangerous three-point shooter. North Carolina needs to make sure they know where he is out on the court.
Dixon missing. Lang rebounds.
That's a tough shot, Bob. He was trying to get turned very quickly before the big guys came.
Okulaja. 4-3. Boy, the three-point shot. Really an ally of the Tar Heels here. 25 apiece. They're 5 of 6 from bonus sphere. Dixon. Baxter off his leg out of bounds. Cable and Curry come back for the Tar Heels. Stokes re-enters for Gary Williams. And Steve Francis gets a breather.
And what Gary Williams is telling his team, you guys cannot get back on defense and stay in the lane. You got to get out and find these three-point shooters.
Particularly Okulaja. He's the one guy who has been deadly from the outside that had struggled in the first 2 regular season matchups against Maryland, shooting from the perimeter. Okulaja drives this time. Haywood the slip follow.
Bob, now you try to get out and guard him out on the perimeter, and he turns the corner and goes to the basket. And when the defense comes to help, nobody's available for blockouts. And now North Carolina is on another 7-0 run.
To take a 2-point lead. Dixon for 3. Baxter just ripped it away from Haywood. Now they call a jump ball.
And Haywood had possession. Baxter creates the held ball, and so it's going to be Maryland's basketball. Lang does a nice job in here with the screen, keeping Martisic away from the ball, and Okulaja finishes the shot, misses, but Haywood is there for the rebound because all the white shirts went to stop the ball.
Morris. They did go to the arrow on that hill ball. They switched the arrow on the far side.
All right, so everything I just said, never mind.
Haywood. Baxter with his first.
Bob, that was an excellent play by Haywood. Dixon was standing there waiting for Haywood to dribble the ball, but Haywood made his move to the basket without bringing the ball down low enough for Dixon to get it and without dribbling it and forcing Baxter into the foul.
Brendan Haywood, 68% free throw shooter during the regular year. Stay tuned at halftime for Bell South's You Call the Play feature. Look at big plays from past ACC games. Ron Profit back in now for the Terps. Danny Miller is out. Second shot for Haywood. Missed them both, then Morris claims it.
Boy, good rebound by Morris.
He was 8th in the conference in that department this season. Strip. Cota with the takeaway. 2-on-1 with Okulaja to the trailing Ademola, and acrobatically off the window.
Turning the tables on Maryland. The Tar Heels get out and run themselves, Bob. Excellent transition basketball by North Carolina. Carolina get man-to-man. And that's a big help for Maryland if Profit is going to be able to score his first bucket of the game. I don't know that Okulaja can guard him effectively away from the basket.
Profit and his first double-double of the season yesterday in the Florida State win. 21 points and 10 rebounds. Cota to Okulaja. Inside Ademola. Can't pull another three. That's his third of the game. And the sixth for the Tar Heels.
Bob, the three-point baskets are what has built this North Carolina league. They're just doing a great job shooting the ball.
Stokes for three. Carolina 5-5 and looking for more.
Man-to-man defense for Maryland.
Dodged a bullet that time. Cota had a good look, and Ademola missed at point-blank range. Profit trying to use the Morris screen.
Boy, nice job by Okulaja to get back on defense, Bob. Maryland's going to have to set it up against the North Carolina man-to-man. Good pass.
And Haywood is fouled.
Bob, Haywood did a nice job. He didn't sprint up the court, but he jogged up the middle of the lane, found an open spot, went down into the low post and received the pass. Nice, very nice play by Cota to find his big guy inside.
After losing twice in the regular season, the Tar Heels have taken a 5-point lead over Maryland, 32-27. Nations Bank, a corporate partner of the ACC, presents this Salute to Excellence question. What two players from a losing team have been named winner of the Everett Case Award as MVP of the ACC tournament? Think about that one. Stay tuned. We'll have the answer for you before the end of the game.
Bob, the North Carolina Tar Heels shooting 6 of 8 from beyond the three-point arc. In the 2 regular season games against Maryland, they were 4 of 16 and 8 for 27. So against the Maryland Terrapins on the year, they shot 12 of 43 from beyond the three-point arc, a total of 28%, and already they're at 75% today. And North Carolina, very impressively, has more transition points than the University of Maryland. So the Tar Heels beating the Terps at their own game. Man-to-man for Maryland. Francis now back in the game for Maryland.
First sticker. Shovels it inside. Owens. Double dribble. And 3 seconds. Take your pick.
3 seconds. Double dribble. Traveling.
One turnover per possession, however.
Well, Maryland would like to have 3 or
4. 32-27. Francis back in the game. Reunited with Stokes in the backcourt. Hardisich and fouled, I believe, going for that rebound. Yep.
Bob, now I'm going to tell you something. Everybody's talking about how the University of Maryland has picked up their game and played better without Obina Akizi. But where they miss Obina Akizi is in a half-court game such as they're in now. Obina Akizi seated on the bench. There is the big guy. Maryland doesn't really have a player in either Hardisich or Baxter that they can go to on the inside who is as effective as Obina Akizi. Remember, Akizi had 19 points in the second half with those inside moves against Maryland in the game in Chapel Hill.
First sticker over the head to Okulaja. Too long for Lang. Owens saves it. Versticker gets it back. Knocked away. And Maryland finally wins it. Guess who's got it? Francis. And he's fouled by Owens.
And that's not a bad foul, Bob. The foul's going to be against Coda, I believe, hanging on to him. But when Francis gets the ball in transition, you have to do something to stop him. Owens, if he'd have got that foul, Bob, it'd been pretty impressive because he was all the way off the court.
32-27 North Carolina.
Again, Bob, in the half-court set, they just really don't have a guy the caliber of McKeezy to play on the inside and convert those opportunities.
It's why you have to shut off the Maryland running game. Take care of the basketball. North Carolina's done a pretty effective job keeping it away from Maryland. Lang missed it. Rebound, Profit.
Oh, and two Carolina guys are down. Maryland with an advantage.
Profit drags in, lays it in. That cuts the Tar Heel lead to 3.
Okulaja's in the corner looking for the ball.
Chris Lang. Third field goal for 6.
Bob, and again, North Carolina.
Technical foul on Gary Williams. Frank Scagliano made the call at midcourt as he went running down past the Maryland bench. Gary said something that set him off, and Frank teed him up.
Now, Gary Williams obviously is a very intense basketball coach. I don't know that it takes very much to set him off, but I was about to say that North Carolina is doing an outstanding job playing transition basketball. They're getting down the court before Maryland can get the defense set, and they're converting their opportunities. And that technical foul, I don't know, was necessarily a planned one by Gary Williams because his team had the basketball, so they lose the ball.
But Okulaja, a 75% free throw shooter, missed them both. Timeout in Charlotte. 3:38 left, and things are heating up in the Maryland-Carolina game. North Carolina 34, Maryland 29. 3:38 left in the first half, and the point Dan Bonner was making about the technical, 2 shots and the ball. So Maryland was bringing the ball up court when Gary was slapped for the tee. Okulaja did miss the free throws, but Carolina will get possession, leading by 5.
Boy, North Carolina has come in here, Bob, really well prepared for this game. Not that they play other games where they're not well prepared, but Bill Guthridge and his staff, obviously with a very good game plan, and his team has executed to perfection.
Max Owens uses the window. That's the largest North Carolina lead of the night, 36-29. Owens picks up his first. Brad Frederick was named our ACC Scholar Athlete from North Carolina earlier this season. The senior from Lawrence, Kansas, with a 3.51 grade point average in political science and history. Congratulations to Brad, our ACC Scholar Athlete from North Carolina.
Robin, with Maryland in this half-court offensive game against the North Carolina zone, Steve Francis, we haven't heard from him in a while. Boy, Stokes thought about it.
Martisic.
Bob Martisic has had some opportunities on the inside and has not been able to convert. He's only 2 of 5 with his shooting.
He had 9 points, 6 rebounds in the game in College Park. That goes off Owens' leg out of bounds.
Bob, and again, there's a turnover. It's 8 now against North Carolina. You don't want to turn it over, but that's not a transition turnover. Maryland not able to take that and run down the court.
Owens goes out in favor of Curry.
Boy, Maryland with their high-octane offense, Bob, they've only been able to score 29 points thus far in the first half. That is a tough shot. My heavens, what a tough shot. Threw a lot of arms getting that baby in.
Juan Dixon's first basket of the game. Coda's in trouble, and he lost it out of bounds. Pressure from Francis and Dixon.
Bob, when you play against the University of Maryland, you are going to turn it over some. They're just too good defensively. You're not going to avoid turnovers the entire game, and Coda, the ball just slips out of his hands.
Knocked down, picked up by Profit. Morris for three. His second three-pointer of the afternoon makes it 36-20 to 34. Carolina by 2.
And now Maryland trying to set the trap once again.
Carolina looking inside. Baxter fronting Haywood. Morris behind Lang.
Oh my!
Went in.
Morris got his hand on that ball, but Haywood just too strong.
Profit missed the three. Lang rebounds. Carolina by 4.
Maryland really struggling. They can't get anything done on the inside. Even when they get it in there, they're having a hard time scoring.
Haywood. And it drops. Back-to-back inside buckets for Haywood.
Now Maryland back into the man-to-man. Or excuse me, North Carolina back into the man-to-man. And Maryland's going to try to get it set.
Shot clock at 10. Francis all the way through.
No, did not go in. Morris hit it while it was in the cylinder.
The fact that he even got it to the rim was remarkable.
Bob's
going one way and he's trying to flip it back the other.
Bob, it was going in, but Morris just couldn't resist the temptation and put his finger on the ball. This is a tremendous drive by Francis. How he is even able to get it anywhere close is a miracle. But Morris gets up there and just can't resist tipping it while it's in the cylinder. And you can see the frustration on the face of Steve Francis.
North Carolina using a 20-second timeout. And we remind you that the announcers for this game, selected and compensated by Raycom and Jefferson Pilot Sports. Any use of this broadcast without their express permission is prohibited. Dan, you talked earlier tonight about locking up the lane. And North Carolina has done it really at both ends.
Bob, they were going to have to get it done at both ends. In the second half of the game at Chapel Hill and throughout the game at College Park, North Carolina was not able to make their big guys a factor. And they sure have made them a factor today.
Profit rebounds the Okulaja miss.
Got a 7-second difference between the shot clock and the game clock. So North Carolina can play good defense, and they'll have another opportunity with plenty of time remaining in the first half. Plenty of time to get a shot, not plenty of time to go have a hot dog and come back and see him. Shot clock in the left-hand corner of your screen.
Francis. Didn't get it off, I don't believe. Baxter, tip no. Rebound Haywood with 3, 2. Curry, he's got a chance. If he gets it off, it's blocked from behind. And the first half comes to an end in exciting fashion. Bill Guthridge and the Tar Heels have taken a 6-point lead over Maryland. 40-34 here at the Charlotte Coliseum, with the winner to meet Duke for the championship tomorrow.
ACC Basketball is brought to you by Nationwide Insurance, by Virginia Power, by Amoco, by Briggs & Stratton, by BMW, and by Advance Auto Parts.
After 2 regular season defeats to the Terrapins, Dan Bonner, North Carolina put together a great game plan. They made the adjustments.
Bob, they're shooting the ball very well, and I think that has to continue through the second half.
Let's find out what went on in the locker room at halftime as we sent it to Gil McGregor.
Yeah, guys, you know, I talked to Gary Williams, very calm Gary Williams, despite of getting a technical, but he says we got to play some defense somewhere. They're shooting outside too well, and they're getting inside too easily, so we got to stop one or the other. As far as Coach Guthridge in North Carolina, he says we're doing a good job handling the pressure. We have to continue to handle the pressure, and do not, repeat, do not let Maryland get in that up-tempo running game.
Speaking of pressure, Dan.
Yes.
Will you see Maryland make some changes, perhaps in the way they apply the pressure?
Bob, I think you may, particularly if North Carolina continues to shoot the ball well. Maryland doesn't do very well when they're trailing at halftime this year. Of course, they haven't been trailing at halftime very many times, but you may see Maryland go away from that zone trap to playing sort of a three-quarter court, just solid man-to-man defense, and trying to force the turnovers in that variety rather than trying to get the traps, because the traps have resulted in some open opportunities for the Tar Heels.
North Carolina with it to start this second half. And Cota plays to Okulaja. Out of Max Owens. Inside Lang. Quick release. Missed it.
That's a great job by Maryland to push the ball, but Cota got his hands on the pass.
North Carolina comes 3 on 2. Now Cota pulls up.
Bob, that's what we were talking about with transition execution for Maryland. They did not do a good job of it that time. Pretty good defense by Steve Francis. You get those transition opportunities, Bob, you must capitalize.
Terrell Stokes.
North Carolina opens the second half in his zone.
Baxter runs into Haywood, and Lang takes it away as he tried to outlet it to Francis. 8th Maryland turnover. Okulaja for 3.
And Bob, that was a contested three-point shot. A better job by Maryland to get out on the three-point shooters.
Baxter loads up. Missed it.
I don't know that that's the shot that Gary Williams wants from Lonnie Baxter in that situation.
Owens, bang. Max Owens with his first 3, the 7th for North Carolina in the game.
Bob, and North Carolina continues to do a good job playing in transition, beating the Maryland defense down the court and taking easy opportunity.
Profit misses the floater. Max Owens brings it up for Carolina. 43-34 Tar Heels.
Bob, and Maryland does not look comfortable on the offensive end. They're trying to hurry, I think, forcing the shots. You get those transition opportunities, you have to take them, but you don't want to force the shots early in the shot clock. Man-to-man for Maryland.
Okulaja driving. Had it taken away. Steve Francis goes one-on-one against Cota. Baxter missed the tip. Cota the rebound. Another opportunity lost for Maryland. Okulaja will go to the line.
Bob, and that's the only way you can describe that. Steve Francis one-on-one in transition. You figure Maryland's got a pretty good shot, but then when Francis misses, Baxter could not have had an easier tip, and he just didn't get it done. Nice pass by Cota. Cota very effective when he's got a little bit of room to pass that ball.
That's the first Tar Heel made free throw. Evtimov for Chris Lang. The foul was on Terrence Morris. Not many fouls called in this game. In fact, no one with over 1, I should say, from Maryland. Just a handful of fouls on North Carolina. Okulaja extends the Carolina advantage to 11, their biggest of the game.
Bob, and Maryland is really in danger of having this game slip away from them. It being put in a position where they've got to spend the whole second half trying to come back, and they turn it over again.
The 9th Maryland turnover. Okulaja. Timeout, Maryland. Second timeout for the Terrapins.
Bob, a very impressive display by North Carolina on both ends of the court. Maryland's offense really not able to get anything going. North Carolina in that zone has generated a couple of turnovers in this half, and as they have done the entire game, they get the ball down the court, they get it in the open three-point position, and they nail it. This is Maryland being soundly beaten at their own game, transition basketball. North Carolina is a team that this year has not been noted for its transition basketball, but boy, they sure have played it effectively today. They have outscored Maryland 8-0 to start the second half, and now the Terrapins have dug themselves a 14-point hole.
Andy Miller gets it back, shovels to Baxter. He had it blocked, but a foul on Haywood. Second personal on Brendan.
Baxter took a long time, Bob, to get that ball up to the basket. He's very fortunate to have the foul call. Jerry Williams has been unhappy with the play of LaRon Prophet. So Prophet is out of the game and Danny Miller is in. So you've got a couple of freshmen in the ballgame for Maryland at key times.
Lonnie Baxter delivered 18 points for Gary Williams yesterday. His second biggest total of the season. 6 points for Baxter.
Maryland now with the full court pressure.
Owens drives it to the corner and Cota.
Well, that's a good recovery by Steve Francis to get out on Cota.
You got to have some serious quicks to be able to do that. Cota's floater, no good. And Miller fouls Haywood.
Martisic's going to get up off the bench and come in for Gary Williams. Gary Williams has to feel like a guy who stuck his finger in the dike and the other spots are open and all up, and he doesn't have enough fingers to get him all in all the spots. North Carolina just really hitting on all cylinders right at the moment.
A memo to Terrapin fans. Even though your ball club beat North Carolina soundly twice in the regular season and you are a heavy favorite today, never underestimate the Tar Heels. They are harder to kill than Rasputin. This ball club has won 6 straight tournament games over the Maryland Terrapins, and no one has played in more tournament games than the Tar Heels. They know what they're doing. Capel back in. 50-36 North Carolina.
Maryland's got to get Steve Francis re-involved in the offense, Bob. North Carolina's done a great job shutting him off.
Stokes with a 3. His first field goal today.
Stokes doesn't really look for his offense very much, but it always seems that he's hitting the big basket.
Jason Capel. Boy, he has been tremendous. That's 13 points now for the Chesapeake, Virginia freshman. But Jeff,
I'll tell you what,
admiring.
Terrence Morris just was out of position defensively and ran into Steve Francis. Actually picked Francis for North Carolina.
Foul coming on Maryland. Stokes complaining. He thought that ball was tampered with on its way to the goal or in the cylinder. Let's see if we can take
Stokes driving to the basketball, but he pushes it up from almost his hip. Doesn't really get the height on the ball. And Stokes is called for the foul on the hold as he tries to create the held ball situation.
Cota inside first sticker and lays it home.
Bob, and now North Carolina is penetrating that Maryland defense almost at will.
Francis. Steve will go to the line.
Bob and Francis, how many times have we seen that play this year where he comes from underneath and does the turnaround dunk, but that time he didn't get up high enough and missed it. Francis gets to the baseline. Martisic screens Bursticker off, and you normally expect Francis to make that shot. He gets the rebound and is fouled on his way back up. But a very frustrating second half thus far for the Maryland Terrapins.
And there's the story. Francis doing everything early in the game, but nothing lately. He misses the first of 2, and he's an 80% foul shooter. 54-39. Martisic the rebound, but deflected. Picking it up, Francis to shovel. Miller's foul.
Maryland is going to think that there is a lid on the basket. They just simply cannot get the ball to go through. You have to check it and see if at halftime they reduce the circumference of the rim here.
Maybe a bigger basketball.
Well, that's true. I think you'd notice.
Only what Maryland had.
That's right. I think you would notice the bigger basketball. What they did is cut down on the diameter.
Profit replaces Francis. Terps just 1 of 7 from the field in the second half. And a timeout with 15:36 to play in the game. Tar Heels by 13. The final semifinal game, Maryland and North Carolina. The sights and sounds of the 46th Atlantic Coast Conference Tournament. And after what happened in the regular season, not many folks thought the Tar Heels would be leading by such a margin.
Bob, and this is a situation in which the Maryland Terrapins have not found themselves very often. You know, overcoming deficits in the second half and coming back to win games is something that Maryland simply hasn't had to deal with, and you can see they're really struggling with their shooting in the second half.
But a lifetime remaining, 15-20.
And Maryland drops back into a zone defense. North Carolina just shredding the man-to-man.
Coda missing. Lang had it blocked. Still loose. Baxter fighting for it, and in the scrum a held ball. Simultaneous possession, they'll go to the arrow. Maryland ball, trailing 13.
Now, Bob, in the second half of the game against North Carolina in Chapel Hill, Maryland went to the zone with great success. This time, just great effort on the boards by both teams.
That night, it was foul difficulty. It caused Maryland to switch to that zone, but it did pay dividends. Carolina fell by 13.
Well, Bob, when you're dealing with a 35-second shot clock, there's plenty of time left in the game. You can play zone, and the other guys have to shoot it within a certain time frame, but you have to convert on the offensive end. Another turnover by Maryland.
Number 10.
Zone defense is a defense that Maryland does not play very much.
Hayward. More outlooks to Stokes. Francis continues to sit on the Maryland bench. Baxter. Oh, and Capel goes down. Oh, and he's hurt again. He slapped the hardwood. You can feel that one all the way through the Coliseum. Mark Davis, the trainer, his parents, the Capels, look on.
Bob, I think that foul was called against North Carolina. Capel just got himself tangled up with Marticic and Lang. But boy, he went down hard. If he had a bad back when he came in here. Mom very concerned.
The foul was called on
Lang.
Yes, indeed. It was
hanging on to Marticic.
His second foul.
Lang actually pushed Marticic into Capel.
Morris.
Boy, they just can't get the bucket to go down, and there's a foul by Profit.
Maryland trailing by 13.
Bob, in the Maryland zone, actually, they've gone to zone for a couple of possessions, and they've stopped the North Carolina offense on those possessions, but they simply haven't been able to convert on their own. Maryland with the trap, and again drops back into the zone. Sort of a 1-2-2 or 3-2 zone look with Miller playing out on the top. Got those long arms. His job is to get out there and contest those three-point shots.
Shot clock at 8. Chris Lang inside. Count it.
Bob, Terrence Morris goes after this ball with the shot clock running down. What you really have to do on the inside is not go for the steal, but Morris goes for the steal, doesn't get it. All he's got to do is let Lang catch the ball and play behind him. But Morris goes for the steal. Now he's on the side, and Lang excellent at getting to the basket when he's got any room at all.
Chris Lang with a three-point play. North Carolina by 16.
Bob, and that's just not a good decision by Baxter. Miller wasn't a foot away from him, and he tosses him that ball.
And I'm wondering, Dan, how long Steve Francis is going to sit on that Maryland bench. Now he's back in the game on the previous dead ball. 57-41.
Bob, and again, you're looking at Maryland trying to play in a half-court game, and keep in mind that Obina Akizi is not in, and they'd sure like to have him in a situation where they have to play half-court basketball.
Francis is kind of the catalyst. They look to him for so much energy and excitement, and such a table setter for this ball club. If he can get going, you've got to believe Maryland's got a chance, even though they're down by such a great margin. Oh, and my goodness!
Well, Bob, I guess you have to think that maybe this is just North Carolina's day.
I do now. What an incredible three by Max Owens. At the end of the clock, tremendous. Profit for three. Owens. A 21-point North Carolina lead. Timeout, Maryland. Another look at our Nations Bank ACC Salute to Excellence question. What two players from a losing team have been named the winner of the Everett Case Award as MVP of the ACC tournament? The correct answer, 1971, Lee Dedman of North Carolina and Albert King of Maryland in 1980. That 71 game was one of the more remarkable finishes in tournament history. South Carolina with Dedman losing a tip to Kevin Joyce. Tom Owens laying it in at the buzzer gave the Gamecocks the tournament championship.
Bob, and if you're down at halftime, it's hard to come back when you only score one field goal.
Francis, even he can't get it to go. Cota, baseline, Owens. You know, this North Carolina team, Dan, coming into the tournament, did not have the typical momentum that a North Carolina team gathers at the end of the year. Bill Guthridge's club had some tough defeats. They were flat in a big loss at Clemson. They were pummeled by Duke at home in their final regular season game. And you look back again to that second half last night against Georgia Tech when the engine again started and rolling, and they got confidence with their offense. They put a great game plan together for Maryland, and they have carried it over to this game.
Bob, and defensively, Maryland is 1 for 11 from the field in the second half, and when you don't score, you can't set your press. So North Carolina, with their defense, has really done a nice job taking care of the Maryland pressure.
4 points for Danny.
Now Maryland with the trap. And Maryland is in a situation now, Bob, where they have got to create some turnovers and turn them into baskets.
Haywood. Off and out of bounds. Maryland ball. Timeout with 11:26 left. The Tar Heels by 21. Semifinal Saturday of the ACC tournament continues, and it has been a day for the men in blue. North Carolina, Capel going down hard on that play underneath. Their inside guys have been tremendous. Lang, Haywood, Okulaja has led the charge along with Owens and Capel from the outside with a three-point shot. It's just been total domination for North Carolina in this game. That look on that Maryland fan pretty much says it all.
That tells the story right there. The Terrapins just simply have not gotten it done. In the second half, they've got one basket by Miller, one basket by Stokes, and that's it. Morris hasn't scored. Francis hasn't scored.
Terrence, 16, shot at 15. Another loose ball picked up by Ademola. Carolina running. Cota and Owens.
That's a good decision by Cota. Maryland wants to create the really quick tempo. North Carolina really running to their advantage today, Bob. They have used the transition game when it has been beneficial to them, but they've been able to cut off the Maryland transition game. Now they have time to be patient. You don't want to lose your aggressiveness, but you like to run time off this clock against the Maryland zone. You don't have to play against a lot of pressure out there.
Owens the offensive rebound, and he's fouled by Martison. Francis also in.
Gary Williams has to be very frustrated. His pressure defense hasn't created the turnovers, but what it has done is given opportunities for North Carolina to score, and North Carolina has taken advantage of those opportunities. So he goes to the zone defense, and then going to the zone defense, you're going to cut off those scoring opportunities, but you're also not going to put any pressure on the ball. And if your game is stealing the ball and running down the court, that puts you at a disadvantage.
Max Owens hits the front end of the 1-and-1.
And he has played very, very well today.
Through Francis's hands, but Miller has it. 65-43.
Bob, if you're going to come back in the game, you need to come back with some offense.
Look at that rejection by Haywood. It's one thing to block the shot. It's another thing to knock it into Gaston County.
Jason Capel looking on. Haywood nearly blocked that over to where Capel's laying on the floor. Now, the North Carolina zone also does not allow Maryland any quick looks at the basket. There's a foul as Francis penetrates through, but for Maryland, you're looking not only to score, Bob, but you like to score quickly, and this zone defense for North Carolina forces you to make a few passes and run some time off the clock before you get a look at the basket.
Third foul on Brendan Haywood. Steve Francis 0 for 2 at the line. That is his first second-half point.
Bob, that's his first point since the 11-15 mark of the first half. Benakezy sitting on the bench. He is just as frustrated as everybody else. And Francis now only 1 for 4 from the line.
Go figure. 10-minute mark, second half. Francis trying mightily to take the ball away from Cota.
Bob and Maryland back to the man-to-man.
Okulaja misses the three. Dixon has it. Maryland trying to attack quickly. Francis into the lane. They'll shoot 2 more. Well, we saw Capel laying outstretched on the bench. Gil McGregor, what's the latest?
Well, he's going to stay laying down. They're not going to let him sit up on the bench. He's got ice on his back. He did hurt his back again, but they don't think it's anything serious. It's just sore back there. But I would imagine, guys, with a lead like this, he may not get back in today.
I'll tell you what, Gil, if one of the 4 of us with Mike Hogwood, if we took a fall like that, we'd be in traction. Not serious? Good grief.
It's easy for Gil to say.
Gil put a lot of people down in the paint like that. But Francis coming up with the second shot now as Haywood goes to the bench with 4 fouls. Steve looking for his 15th, and he's got it. 65-46.
There's Francis. Going to try to put some pressure on Cota.
No whistle. Hand off to Cota. Now the foul on Francis. That's number 3 on Steve.
Bob, that's the situation that Maryland is in, however. They can't worry about those fouls. They have to get out there and play aggressively on defense because they have to gain some extra opportunities. We've got 9 minutes and 22 seconds remaining in the game. They are down 19 points. They have to generate some turnovers, or they're going to have a very tough time coming back in this game.
Cota misses the front end. Maryland trying to mount a comeback with Profit, and he can't connect.
Maryland stays in that man-to-man.
Ed looks in. Here's steal by Miller. Okulaja to the corner. Cota for three. Air ball. Here's Miller. Underneath to Francis. He's short. Follow. No. Miller short. And Lang's got it.
Bob, what did we talk about before the game? Transition execution. Maryland had an easy one, and they were not able to get it to go down. And Bill Guthridge, recognizing that the game has suddenly started moving up and down a little more quickly than he wants, calls the timeout. Doesn't want to give Maryland the opportunity to come climbing back in the game. This is a very good pass. Francis maybe makes the shot a little more difficult than he needs to. Martisic mistimes the jump, and then Miller simply doesn't put enough on it to get it to the basket. How frustrating can that be?
The second half shooting numbers, ouch. 2 for 18 for the Terrapins. And when you can't get closer than close, they had 3 right at the rim. 65-46. A lot more Carolina runs than Maryland, though.
That was to me like they're winning in the runs 4-1, and that's more than enough in this particular game. Stokes back in now. Maryland stays in the man-to-man. Again, they're going to really try to put some pressure on.
Curry picks up his dribble, plays to Owens. Shot clock at 5-4. Owens high to get it. Okulaja muscles it up and in, and a foul.
Bob, what you're dealing with there, you're trying to put pressure on North Carolina. You had Steve Francis matched up against Okulaja, and he simply didn't block Okulaja off the board.
One shot.
8 minutes to go, and Okulaja to shoot. 67-46 Tar Heels. 68-46. Okulaja with 17 as the Tar Heels continue to dominate the Maryland Terrapins. Dan, let's take a look at our Advance Auto Parts play of the game.
Bob, and of course it involves North Carolina, and when the things are going well for you, they are going well for you. Ademola Okulaja gets the position. Steve Francis, the guy who was matched up against him, is out near the top of the key, and Okulaja, nobody there. He gets the rebound and just goes straight up, scores the basket, draws the foul.
Okulaja has scored 17 to lead North Carolina, but the contributions to the Carolina cause have been many.
Bob, so you get a look at Steve Francis. He's 0 for 5 in the second half. Ed Cota has been outstanding for North Carolina. 8 assists today, only 4 turnovers. Not a lot of offense, but boy, he sure helped blunt that Maryland pressure early.
Morris in and out with a 3. Martisic follows. He leaves it short. Terrence picks it up and puts it in.
Bob, that has been the kind of struggle that the Maryland Terrapins have experienced today trying to score.
Knocks it out of bounds.
Bob, you got to be careful about just lobbing that ball up in the air with Profit or Francis around. They can come and get it. Maryland now going with a little bit smaller lineup
as Martisic goes on. Here's Maryland getting it ahead to Steve Francis.
That's what Maryland has been denied most of the day. And that's what they need to do a lot more of, Bob, if they're going to come back in the game. There's still time for Maryland. They're a team that has a great deal of offensive firepower.
Stokes trying to pull it out and does. Ahead again to Francis. Missed it. Tip, no. Ademola is fouled by Miller.
Bob, Gary Williams claiming that Francis was fouled as he went up for the basket. North Carolina getting back. Francis trying to force it in there. And that's another opportunity that the Terrapins were not able to take advantage of.
Ademola. North Carolina into the double bonus for the rest of the game. 2 free throws for Vasco.
And that's going to make the Maryland comeback even more difficult, Bob, if the Terrapins are able to mount one, because they've got to be aggressive. They're going to commit some fouls, and every time they do commit a foul, it's going to be a 2-shot opportunity for North Carolina.
Ed Cota, a very quick breather, and Ronald Curry back to the bench. Ademola second shot. 6:45 to play.
And North Carolina goes back into that zone. The object here, again, is to run some time off the clock and to force Maryland to the perimeter. Let them get the ball inside, make them pass the ball around before they take a perimeter shot.
Moran Prophet, his first points in the second half, and only 6 for the game.
Obviously, Bob, Maryland cannot afford to trade baskets with North Carolina.
Owens at midcourt.
Nice job by North Carolina to get away from the pressure.
Ademola. And a rebound by Prophet. It's a 17-point game. 6 to go. Every possession offensively for Maryland. Key, Miller for 3. 69-55. Okulaja in big trouble. Hell ball, defense wins. Maryland's got it.
Stay with the arrow. Go down there.
5:41 left. As Maryland turns up the heat, Carolina takes a 20.
Bob, for North Carolina, they have done such a good job all day long handling the pressure. In this situation, Okulaja catches the ball in that corner. You don't want to throw the ball there. Okulaja this time can't get out of the trap in which he finds himself.
And of course, for Maryland, you make a couple of baskets, you can set up that pressure.
Bob, absolutely. The game is a great deal easier when the ball is going in the goal. And for the Maryland Terrapins, they started 2 for their first 18 in the second half. They weren't able to set the pressure. And it seems that Maryland has finally found a rhythm. They've hit 4 of their last 5. The problems for the Terrapins, they waited till they were down 21 before they got it in gear. The question is, do they have enough to come all the way back? North Carolina now switches back to the man-to-man.
Baxter with Haywood sagging on him. Francis drives in and Cota fouled him. Cota's second foul.
Good job by Maryland, Bob, to spread the court and allow Francis the room to operate. Francis is extremely quick with the basketball, and I don't know that Cota is quick enough to stay with him without some help. This will be a 1-and-1. Francis, however, today has struggled from the free throw line.
He is 3 of 6. Crucial free throws. 20 for Francis. 5:27 left. Missed it. Carolina by 13. But again, Maryland elongates the pressure on Okulaja, and a foul on Miller. Third on Danny. And it looked, Dan, like he and Prophet had the double team, just hold your position.
Bob, that is a very, very difficult thing to do. You get a guy in trouble and you start reaching, and there he moves his feet underneath Okulaja and knocks him down and brings his arm down on top of Okulaja. And again, you've got to apply pressure, and so you're going to risk fouling, and now North Carolina gets 2 shots down on the other end.
Okulaja with his 18th. 10th leading foul shooter in the conference. First team all ACC performer. And it's 71-56. Terrence Morris for Lonnie Baxter.
And Maryland elects to go back to that smaller lineup. Morris, the better offensive player than Baxter. Stokes trying to conserve time.
Francis nearly picked off by Okulaja. Profit rolls it in. Haywood running the baseline against the press. Miller steals it. Inside to Francis. He's fouled. Count it. Bill Guthridge upset there wasn't a whistle. He thought Okulaja got fouled.
Great pressure by Maryland. Miller coming up with the ball, and Francis really able to make that conversion. Gary Williams the last time thought that Miller did not commit a foul. This time is Bill Guthridge who's questioning the call.
And it's a 10-point game.
And for Maryland, it becomes like blood in the water for Sharks. They sense that North Carolina's back on their heels a little bit. I guess to use that particular term.
To midcourt. Oh, a dangerous pass. Coda has it. Inside Owens. And he's fouled.
That's fouls on Francis, and that's 4.
71-61 Tar Heels. 4:51 left. And Owens to the line. 2 shots.
And so now you have to wonder how that particular play is going to affect the Maryland pressure. Francis, a big part of that pressure, and he's going to need to be aggressive, but he's got to be careful now. Owens scores his 16th.
Steve Francis has fouled out of only 1 game this season. 73-61. Maryland looking to continue the charge. Terrence Morris to Francis. Morris for 3. Go to the rebound.
Well, Maryland has put themselves in a situation where they have to make just about every basket.
Hand check on Stokes.
And that's 3 fouls now against Terrell Stokes.
Bob, the shooter 2.
2 free throws for Ed Cota. Against Georgia Tech, 9 assists and 1 turnover last night. Only the 3rd player in the history of the Tar Heel program with 200 or more assists 3 straight years. What a job he has done today. Capel out for the rest of the game after a hard fall in the lane, re-injuring the back.
Bob, what a job that he's done today, and that was his first point of the game.
Which shows you many ways to contribute besides with the points. Morris for 3. Halfway in and out.
Bob, as I said, those are the kind of shots that have to go in the basket. Morris has now missed 2 open 3-pointers.
Stokes coming with pressure. Haywood at midcourt. Offensive foul as he decks Francis, and Haywood is fouled out of the game.
That's a real good play by Francis, and again, good pressure by Maryland. They forced North Carolina into the situation where they're trying to throw the ball to Haywood at half court against the pressure, and that's not really what they're trying to accomplish. They kept the ball away from Cota on the inbounds pass, and then here's Haywood catching the ball out by half court, hips Steve Francis and knocks him down. But again, Maryland needs to convert.
Francis deep 3. Rebound, Juan Dixon.
Dixon, a capable three-point shooter as well.
Francis blocking foul on Versticker.
Steve Francis, just with such great quickness, gets by Okulaja, and Versticker does what he needs to do, tries to step in there and draw the charge. He's simply not quick enough. Francis gets by out there on the perimeter. And those big guys are in a world of hurt.
I'm just trying to think of someone quick enough to stop Steve Francis. 21 today for the Maryland guard. Makes it 22 in the personal total, 62 for his team. Dixon out. Miller also out of the game. Francis 6 of 10 at the foul line.
Norman Fields in the game for Maryland. What do you want to bet he's in there to foul somebody?
3:49 to play in Charlotte. Winner to meet Duke. An 11-point lead for the Tar Heels. The semifinals and a nail-biter here for the Terrapins. They came in a heavy favorite after winning 2 regular season games against North Carolina, but the Tar Heels have been able to frustrate Steve Francis and the Terps. North Carolina with an 11-point lead at 74-63 and 3:49 to play. The biggest North Carolina lead of the day was 23 at 64-41, but Dan, the Tar Heels have scored only 10 points in the last 7.5 minutes.
Bob, but in those last 7.5 minutes, North Carolina only losing 10 points of its lead, and so they're up by 11, and there's only 3:49 left in the game. North Carolina, they just need to hang on to the basketball, I think, and make some free throws, and they'll be in pretty good shape.
Owens to Versticker, short. Every possession vital. Francis. 26 for Steve. Third three-pointer. 74-66. Cota weaves through. Versticker goes up, banks it in.
That's a big shot by Versticker, Bob. Maryland, though, has enough time that if they can trade 3 for 2, they've got to score quickly, however.
Francis travels.
And obviously Maryland can't afford to turn it over, and they just did, so now they've got to get it back. We're under 3, and Maryland still trails by 10.
Cota end-to-end against Stokes.
Okulaja's just had an outstanding game today. Hitting those three-point shots. He's been an outlet against the pressure.
Maryland gets it back. Danny Miller in the middle of Francis. Timeout Maryland. With 2:33 remaining, the Tar Heel lead is 8. We'll continue with more of our coverage of the 46th ACC tournament after these messages from the Atlantic Coast Conference.
North Carolina still ahead by 8 points. Maryland, however, making a late run, and they're doing it with their defense. Turnovers and converting them into baskets. Miller is going to take the ball down the court. Francis asking for it in the middle. He finds him, and Steve Francis now has 28 in the game. Maryland with only 1 timeout left, Bob, and that is a full timeout.
Steve Francis, you mentioned Dan, 28, and how long did he go scoreless over the 2 halves? Close to, I'd say, 15, 16 minutes of clock time over the 2 periods.
Here's Okulaja pulling the ball outside. We talked about what a good game Okulaja's had, and I think he and Cota are going to have to be the primary ball handlers down the stretch. Now, Maryland hasn't fouled in this possession, Bob. And there's a 5-second
call. They get the ball back.
Cota just a little too lackadaisical with the ball. 20 Maryland turnovers now. Bob, Bob, what you've got to do if you're Maryland, Bill Guthridge obviously concerned, but if you're Maryland, you either foul immediately in the possession or you play good defense and try to get the ball back. You don't want to let that clock run down to 5 or 6 seconds and then foul. North Carolina in the zone. Maryland does not have a lot of time to play around.
Stokes, Francis, fakes Coda. Outside to Stokes for 3. No good. Rebound Miller. Out to Francis. 1:47 left. Inside Morris controls and lays it in. Pressure by Maryland. First sticker. Oh, look out. Coda has it. The clock continues to tick. They beat it with 3 seconds to spare on the 10-second call. Owens.
Hold on. You don't want to shoot that one. Not in that situation. You don't need that shot.
Now Maryland down by 6.
A 3 will make it very interesting, won't it?
They can cut it in half. And Profit drives in. Had it stripped by Okulaja. What a play by Okulaja.
Bob, that may be the play of the game right there for North Carolina. And Bill Guthridge, I think, wants to make the point that we don't need any more baskets in this game. We need to hang on to the basketball.
LaRon Profit trying to drive into the lane, and Ademola Okulaja reached down and knocked that ball away as Maryland watched the defense by number 13.
Okulaja moves his feet and just puts his hand right in on the basketball. Profit looking for the foul, but that was an excellent play by Okulaja. And you can see the reaction of Gary Williams and his assistant coach Billy Hahn. That was a critical point in the basketball game, and LaRon Profit taking the ball inside on the drive, had it stripped by Okulaja.
68 seconds left. Each team with 1 full timeout remaining. Carolina has the possession arrow. Both teams in the double bonus.
Bob, and it is a 2-possession basketball game, and North Carolina, if they can run the clock down another 31 seconds before getting off a shot, and that will make it very difficult for Maryland to get those necessary 2 possessions, even if North Carolina should miss the shot.
Steve Francis, we mentioned he had scored 28 points today. John Madry just tells us that his scoreless streak encompassed 21 minutes from 11:15 of the first half to 10:04 of the second half. Francis did not scratch. Maryland fell behind by 23 and are still trying to make a game of it. A near steal. Francis up into the 4th brace row. Here at Charlotte going for that basketball. Well, what hustle by Steve, and he's going to come our way to get back out of the court. Carolina ball.
Well, I'll tell you, that was a charge that I was not interested in drawing.
Your defense evaporated.
I almost landed on top of you there, buddy. Well, that's entirely enough entertainment for me this evening.
1:05 left. Okulaja plays it back to Owens. In the middle of the first sticker. Bryant mishandled it. Stokes has it. Over to Profit. He jumps in. He got fouled by Owens. 57.7. And Profit to shoot 2.
Maryland really turning up the defensive intensity, and you got to give a lot of credit to the Terrapins, Bob. They were really dead and gone in this game, but they never quit. Got the offense going, and it's still a long shot, but they do have a shot.
76-71.
Nice job by North Carolina, though, to defend the 3-point line, Bob. Even if he makes this one, we're still at a 2-possession game.
Curry enters. Lang goes out.
Curry, a 59% free throw shooter. He may get the opportunity to go to the line, but if you don't want to foul him, if you're Maryland, because Francis is guarding.
First sticker, hands it off to Coda. He's going to take it up and hit it. 78-72.
Maryland needs a 3.
Dakota picks up his third. And let's get a Saint Laurent Prophet back at the line.
Boy, that is a big, big basket by Ed Cota. Makes it a 6-point game. The fans here in Charlotte a little bit concerned because the score says 76-72, and the North Carolina Partisans a little bit worried about that. So now Maryland goes back to the free throw line, down 6 points.
The scoreboard is locked out. Larry, the scoreboard is locked out.
Make the announcement. It is 78-72.
Well, now that we heard them say the scoreboard is not operating, so I wonder if they've lost some time. It doesn't really matter what the score says up there, as long as the clock is working.
So that's the important part.
Well,
Keep Maryland's hope alive.
Bob, as long as the clock is operating, you don't want to stop the game at this point in time to work on the score. Francis out of the game. Maryland is going to have to foul.
17 for 21. Maryland at the line.
Well, they've got to foul.
Prophet, what is he waiting for? Now Curry gets rid of it to Owens. He circles out. Time a-wasting, and now a foul. I know it was Okulaja, but I don't think Maryland had the choice to pick
Bob,
the Tar Heel.
You don't have a lot of time. I think maybe they were trying to wait to get Curry, but they just didn't have enough time to do it. Now you're in a situation, Bob, there's only 0.4 seconds difference between the shot clock and the game clock, so the shot clock is no longer a factor in the game. Owens going to go to the line for 2.
He's 5 of 6 to line. And has scored 17.
And a 76% free throw shooter on the year.
Francis back for Dixon.
Hey, we run it 5. We run it 5. We run it 5.
Max hits a ball.
Now all you've got to do is defend the three-point line, Bob, because Maryland didn't have time to get 3 possessions. He's on the line.
It's a 2. Timeout, Maryland. 26.1 seconds left. And a 4-point lead for North Carolina. 80-76 North Carolina. Tar Heel ball. And 26.1 seconds left. And Maryland led the ACC in steals this year with almost 13 a game. They need one now desperately.
Bob, they need one now, and they absolutely need to get some three-point baskets. The left foot of Miller on the line as he lets it go. North Carolina doing a great job, Lang, to get out there and defend the three-point basket, forcing him to go by. His left foot is clearly on the line as he lets it go. And a great play by Lang. Lang knows that Maryland does not have enough time to rally in this game with 2s. And so he goes out and defends the 3.
Okulaja, touchdown pass to Bursticker.
Well, you got to get a 3 and you got to get it quickly.
Dixon. Oh, it's a rebound. Decked by Morris with 19.1 seconds left. I thought Curry was the quarterback.
Well, that's just a great pass by Okulaja, Bob, and North Carolina taking advantage of what Maryland has to do. Okulaja tries to step away from it. Dixon trying to draw the foul. Misses the three-point shot. But Okulaja with a great play. Knows that Maryland has the pressure, and that's one of those plays, if you're Maryland, you just have to risk that. And Okulaja made him pay for it. What a great pass.
Max Owens. He has had a huge game. Only 4 points in 2 regular season games against Maryland. 21 today. 84-76 North Carolina. Miller for three. Short. Francis.
No timeouts.
Clock stops. Now it begins as Carolina gets it in, and Cota will dribble this thing out. What an impressive victory with now a 1.8 remaining as Francis fouls out. Grabbing Owens. Stevie out with 31 points, and he is denied a berth in the championship game in his first ACC tournament.
Bob, Maryland has been in the last 5 ACC tournament semifinals, but they have yet to graduate to the championship game. Gary Williams obviously very frustrated, but North Carolina, what a superior effort by the Tar Heels. They denied Maryland the transition game during the most important stretches of this basketball game, built up the big 21-point lead, and then had enough to hang on. And Okulaja made 2 critical plays down the stretch. That strip of LaRon Prophet when Maryland still had an opportunity in the game. Okulaja stole the ball, and then that long baseball pass to Brian Bursticker really sealed the victory for North Carolina.
Max Owens having a career day with 22 points. Make it 23. A long pass sails out of bounds, and Carolina will get it back.
And it didn't touch anyone, so they'll have to. Oh no, the officials ruled that it did go off a Maryland player's hand, so North Carolina get it. That'll be it.
The Tar Heels, as impressive a victory as we've seen from North Carolina in a long time this season. What an outstanding coaching job by Bill Guthridge. Tremendous game plan, and the Tar Heels executed to a T. They meet Duke for the championship tomorrow. We'll be back. Stay with us.
ACC basketball has been brought to you by Dodge, by Pepsi, by Nations Bank, by Food Lion, by Buick, and by Budweiser.
A great afternoon of basketball here in the Charlotte Coliseum, and the North Carolina Tar Heels have made it to the championship game, beating the Maryland Terrapins 86-79. Everybody, Mike Hogwood with you now. Let's tell you about our players of the game. I don't think there was any doubt from Maryland that it was Steve Francis who had 31 points. How about Ademola Okulaja? What a great game he had. 19 points, 4 for 7 3-pointers when they needed a big play. Ademola Okulaja was there for the North Carolina Tar Heels. Also give an honorable mention to one Max Owens, who had 23 points for Carolina. We'll be back to talk about the championship game tomorrow in just a moment.
Remember life in the fast lane?
I do.
First you meet, then you get married, and things slow down.
Yeah, right.
To help you keep up, drive the supercharged Regal GS Sport Sedan. Plenty of room, standard traction control, and the most power in its class. And now, Regal comes with something that'll make it even easier to drive. Regal by Buick, official car of the supercharged family. Tom Vincent's a guy who's always looking for a deal.
Hey, Tyler, buddy.
Hi, Tom.
Listen, I hear you're the big man down at Bell South.
Well,
Hey, listen, we go way back, huh, Tyler?
Yeah.
So you think you could hook me up with some caller ID, some call waiting, maybe a little of that three-way calling? How much would that run your old buddy?
Well, with Bell South Complete Choice, you can have your local phone service and you're picked from up to 20 calling features for one flat rate.
Yeah, complete choice.
Just between you and me.
Welcome back. We are all set up for the Atlantic Coast Conference Championship game tomorrow right here in the Charlotte Coliseum. And you can see it right here on Raycom and Jefferson Pilot Sports. It'll be the top seed Duke against North Carolina. Another one of those great Battle of the Blues shaping up the Tar Heels and the Blue Devils. Well, it's time to say goodbye for now. We'll see you tomorrow at 12:30. For Bob Rathman and Dan Bonner and Gil McGregor, I'm Mike Hogwood. Thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow for Duke and North Carolina. Fiber optic